A wonderful welcome. This is Ask the Pros again. We're back 2022. Very exciting. And as the previous seasons, this Ask the Pro series is supported and powered by the Coffee Technicians program. Interested in developing your skills as a coffee technician? Check out the Coffee Technicians program. It's an education program for new and experienced technicians alike. Available at the foundation, intermediate, and professional levels, the Coffee Technicians program consists of 6 modules: coffee machines, hydraulics, electrical, water and preventative maintenance, operations management, and coffee preparation. You can learn more and all about the program at sca.coffee/coffeetech. That's sca.coffee/forwardtech.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Appreciate the plug there. Welcome everyone to Ask the Pro Season 4, Episode 1. Wow, 4 seasons. We've been really at this for a while.
We've got a lot going down there,
man. So this is Becoming a Tech, Career Paths for Coffee Professionals. And when we say that, what we're really getting at here is there's lots of different ways to move around in the coffee world, and we want to bring some folks in. We want to sort of focus toward what technician goals are, but sort of have some broader conversations about the industry and how we can maneuver within it. Can you go to the next slide for us, Hyland? So this presentation is for informational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed in this webcast are those of the presenters and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any aspect of the Specialty Coffee Association or the companies the panelists may represent. Again, let's say welcome everyone to the Ask the Expert Pro Series. This is our 4th season. We're committed to presenting everyone with lots of things that you want to know about coffee related throughout the year. So save Fridays at 8 Pacific time for the Coffee Tech Guild. And you know, if any of you ever listen to Car Talk, this is a lot like what we're going to do here. Hyland is my click to my clack. You know, we are the Tappet brothers here oh, I guess I hope that's not a copyrighted thing to say, but anyway, we can move on.
Caleb. Okay.
Thank
you, Caleb. Coffee time.
Right. Okay. So thanks for that. Bring me home. So one of the things we like to start with in our Ask the Pro series is, you know, a quick introduction and coffee tasting, because that's, you know, what we're here for, right? So I'm gonna go ahead and start, and then we'll go across the speakers and then the panelists, so you get a quick intro to everyone. And in this episode, we're really going to focus on the speaker's experience in the coffee industry, and so we're going to get a lot deeper dive there as we move through it. But this brief introduction will give, you know, everyone a chance to you know, introduce themselves. So I'm going to go first. This morning, oh, sorry. So my name is Caleb Leach. My pronouns are he, him. I've worked in the specialty coffee world for 27 years. I've been a roaster, a cafe owner, a technician, managed a service company, and now I'm at Starbucks. Somebody has some loud stuff going on in the background. Richard, you need to go on mute, buddy. I don't even know if it's Richard. I'm just going to call him out. Anyway, so now I'm with Starbucks Coffee Company as equipment service manager, and today I'm drinking a Kenyan from a little local roaster down the street named Bluebeard. They're actually a block away from me. This coffee is, I brewed it this morning, V60 pour over. It's a little bright. It's definitely a little syrupy. It's a lighter roast, like brown sugar syrup, and definitely some lemon, grapefruit notes. I don't know if it's just because I brushed my teeth, you know, 2 hours ago, but I feel like there's a lot of tannins stuck on my teeth, but I feel like sometimes that's that's really just my toothpaste hanging in there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pass that on to Madeline, and if you could give us a brief introduction, and then we'll keep going.
Definitely. Good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, my video isn't working, just some compatibility issues here. But I have been in the coffee industry for 12 years and have worked in a myriad of roles from harvesting coffee on coffee farms to making coffee in cafes and kind of everything in between. So I've been able to touch coffee at its entire life cycle, which is pretty cool. I currently live and work in Hawaii and am the co-owner of Pacific Coffee Research, which I know my title says educator and curator grader, but if anybody owns a company, they know that you do a million different things. And one of the things that I do is some technician work as well. And I'm actually drinking tea right now. It is just after 6 a.m. here, and I don't usually drink coffee until later in the morning. So I'm drinking a Darjeeling from Big Heart Tea Company, which is based out of St. Louis, actually. And I go to St. Louis every so often because of some family and friends. And so I like to support some businesses over there.
Aloha. It's Madeline, right?
Madeline, yes.
Madeline, aloha. And Darjeeling, like my favorite tea of all time.
I love
That's so
Darjeelings and
exciting.
oolongs. Those are like
Yeah.
my two, Darjeeling and oolong. Those are, yeah, I love them. And it's like
I
my
have to-
favorite way to actually start a morning, with a cup of tea.
I have to
I
tell
don't, I
you,
feel like that's like blasphemous to say in the coffee industry. People are like, "What?" And I'm like, sorry, I just have to wait until like 9 a.m. at least to have my coffee. And then before
yeah,
that,
no,
it's tea.
one day I'll have to tell you about my trip to Darjeeling tea farm and processing plant. That's for
Yeah,
another
I would
episode.
love to hear that.
So we're gonna move on to it's Stefan or Steven. We haven't met yet.
Stephen.
Steven. Okay, Steven, you're up.
I am Stephen Carpenter. I am the lead service technician for Canteen Tradecraft Phoenix here in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been in the specialty coffee industry for about a decade, everywhere from like barista to like shift lead to manager up to roaster, and then did that for a while, and then started fixing machines and learned that I love that. And currently right now I'm drinking Collectivo's Peacemaker blend on a specially calibrated confection Encore 29 to make sure that it's doing it justice.
Nice. Oh, yeah. Okay. Thanks. Let's move on to David.
Hey guys, it's David Myers. I'm currently in Wilmington, North Carolina. I've been roasting coffee for 16 years. My primary function is owning my company now, but I also work as a consultant to a lot of roasters around the country for one specific manufacturer and run their lab for them. So I'm kind of doing a lot of different things besides owning my own company. And today I'm drinking a cup of from Homewood Suites in my hotel, batch brew, and I'm enjoying it immensely.
Doing the job, right? All right, thanks, David.
It's my third cup.
You must love it. Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Carson. I'm a service technician for Perfect Shot Espresso Service, which is part of Orleans Coffee in New Orleans. I've been working in the coffee industry for about 16 years. For 13 years of that, I was a barista, kind of off and on. But the rest of my background is in sewing, costume design, bike mechanics, painting, baking. So all of that kind of informs my work as a service technician as well.
What coffee are you drinking?
I have no idea. I was just called right before this. I was called out on an emergency call, so I just like ran in and grabbed whatever was there. I don't know. I don't know what it is.
What's your last favorite cup?
I feel like I'm not at a point right now where I can be picky about my coffee because
Okay.
I see a lot of really gross stuff at work. A lot of like moldy sludge full of cockroaches that kind
Oh
of
my God.
thing. Yeah,
Sounds
we're really
delicious.
buggy.
Well,
Um,
you're speaking to the right audience right now.
right, yeah. So I'm like,
You're
I
doing some
don't know
hard
if I
time.
can enjoy this like I used to at this point in my career.
Well, sounds like you're a real Renaissance woman, Elizabeth, and I can't wait to hear some more from you. Kurt wasn't able to make it this morning. He had a conflict, so he's still on this slide, but he's not going to be here today. So Maria, can you do a quick intro for us?
Sure, sure. Good morning, y'all. My name's Maria Cleveland, and I'm here in San Francisco. Madeline, thanks for getting up so early for us.
Oh yeah.
So I've been in the broader hospitality industry and actually coffee industry for a little over 30 years. And at the end of the day, I like to say we're all bussers and baristas. But during my career, I've been in retail leadership, store support, wholesale operations, and I'm fortunate right now to be supporting customers in North America for Ernex brands, calling on all channels of business. So be it a C-store chain, I just spent 3 days in the market with a C-store chain, and helping be better, but also engage with manufacturers as well. So it's kind of a dream coffee job for me.
Nice. And what coffee are you drinking this morning?
Oh, I am doing something crazy. I did Equator Mocha Java. They're trying to dial in their newsy bag.
Oh, fun.
But the bags, the 16 grams, it gets chewy. So I put it in my Clever dripper. So I did a little nerd level because it's just like I'm not into French press. I don't like chewy coffee. So
Yeah.
it's actually super clean. It's yummy. They're testing out an in-room program for a hotel here in the Bay.
All right, Maria Cleveland, keeping it clean since 19 something.
93,
All right.
baby. Good.
All right, Keegan.
All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Keegan Kyrell. I am the tech trainer on all things specialty coffee for Canteen Tradecraft. I've been in the industry for going on 10 years now. Worked as a roaster, filled in as a barista, been a tech service manager, and now here I am training up technicians like Stephen Carpenter we have sitting here. And today I am drinking Costa Rica Las Lajas honey process from Onyx.
Oh, nice.
Really nice, bright, fruity, good strawberry mango notes in there. Good clean finish. Delicious cup.
All right, thanks, Keegan. And to the man of the hour, our fearless leader and moderator for today, Hyland Joseph.
You know what I hate about the coffee? You know what I hate about the coffee part, Caleb, is every time we do the coffee part, and Elizabeth, you don't count here because I don't like the taste of cockroaches, is I always end up going out and buying like everything you guys have been drinking. So thanks for your references, really. Maria, I'd love to try those bags.
Yeah.
I'll get you.
I have been in coffee since 1985. So if anybody knows what it's like being in coffee since 1985, it's hard to find something that I haven't done. Well, actually, no, I haven't done roasting, which is what this theme of this episode is about. I am drinking, and I'm sorry for the plug, David, but I'm drinking David Meyer's Mighty Good Campfire Blend, which is my favorite blend. It's a nice, rich, medium roast. I go through 2-3 pounds a week. We're going to get started. First off, I want to let the panelists know that we have the entire world watching. We have about 40 people from all over the planet. So you guys, we've got a good crowd today. We'll start with some questions. Panelists, you guys can go dark. And our theme today is talking to roasters who have experience in tech. I've interviewed a couple of them. I know a couple of them, just to give roasters an idea of what their jobs are like, what they've done, what they've encountered, transferring from barista to roaster or from roaster to tech. So I'll ask the question. You guys have a few minutes for your answers, and feel free to ask questions back. So the first question is, what do you find rewarding about the job? Why does your job rock? Let's start with you, Stephen.
I have found in my life that I have been obsessed with the idea of alchemy, like that kind of weird pseudo, like half scientific, mundane transmutation of like something base into something magical. And to me, being a coffee professional is the closest thing to that, where we take these ordinary, beans, we work them with machines, we work them with knowledge of like time and temperature and ratio, and we make this like elixir of life. So being able to understand that and to teach others to use machines, to use science, to make something amazing, that's the coolest part of my job.
Excellent answer, Stephen. Elizabeth, how about you?
Okay, so besides the problem-solving aspect of it, which I think everybody has to like if they're a technician, I have a short anecdote. So it was my first week of training, and I was with my coworker Mark in the middle of nowhere, Mississippi, at a little cafe. It was already like blowing my mind that I was going to be paid to go on little road trips by myself, and I didn't expect that. So we were at this cafe replacing the heat exchanger shaft, and Mark pulls the piece out of the machine. And for anybody who doesn't know, this is what they look like. So, so I was like, that came out of that machine? And he was like, yeah, it's a heat exchanger shaft. I was like, well, this is like the best day ever. This is like so beautiful. I'm gonna keep this as a souvenir, the one he was gonna throw away. And then after we repaired the machine, there was like a little farmer's market going on next door. It was the golden hour. It was so pretty. It was like, this is like the best day of my life. But I think this is just so cool. And it's like going into a cave and seeing little ancient paintings of hands. It's like, oh, a human was here. They had feelings about their body, and it influenced their design. I just think that's so cool.
That's hilarious,
so I get to find little Easter eggs, and I get to go places that I never would have gone otherwise. I get to see behind the scenes at a lot of like old buildings and hotels here in New Orleans, and I get to go to little towns along the Gulf Coast that I've never heard of. But yeah, that's what I find rewarding about it.
You are literally the first tech that has ever said field time is fun. So you get 10 points for that.
I mean, it's also stressful.
Oh yeah, but it's a really great attitude to have about it, though. David, what about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, what I find rewarding about, is really, in its broadest sense, is the connection that people make with coffee. I mean, I've developed these relationships all over the world with people who grow coffee, roast coffee, and in my specific company and in my current role, I've had about 5 or 6 people come through my company over the past 15 years who've learned how to roast coffee, and to see them take that on and explore ways to modify the way things taste, and then learning how to do a lot of the basics, tearing down and changing bearings, and just, they're it's a launch point for their broader coffee career. And in my role as a educator and trainer for people, it's similar. They're just buying their first roaster, or maybe they have a new piece of equipment in their factory. I'm working with people from just starting out to 30-40 million pounds as an educator, and it's still the ability for them to learn and experiment and try new things, and to see how that affects the flavor of their coffee, and that they can solve their problems and through process of experimentation. And Elizabeth, I grew up, I'm a bike geek as well. And to me, getting a new bike is getting all the parts and assembling it. And I like that. I've had a bunch of different espresso machines, and I just love the gear. I almost love the gear more than I like using it. Because it's just there's just so much cool stuff out there. To look at and play with and see how it affects the flavor and what we do with coffee. So that my job rocks, definitely.
Thanks, David. Madeline, are you still there?
I sure am.
Let's hear your story. Your answer.
I would say, well, so my job is so dynamic, as I kind of alluded to earlier. Like, I wear many different hats, and I would say like the common thread through all of those about why I enjoy doing any of the things that I do is that I am continuously learning. And that's one of the things that I have recognized about myself for many years, is that I need to be in an environment where I am always learning something new. Otherwise, I get bored, honestly. And specifically tech work, it is challenging. If people do not know what I look like, I am a petite human, which sometimes plays to my benefit. And I'm always like, how do large people do this? Like getting their hands and fingers in all these tiny little places. However, when it comes to like uh, just using these wrenches to get some stuff loose that has been maybe never touched before in the 10 years that a machine has been in operation, I struggle with that. But it's challenging in a way that I am always, I don't know, I feel very satisfied if I'm like able to get the job done and I'm able to figure it out, and it's a whole learning process. And so um, yeah, I think that this job is good for people who like challenges and enjoy learning, and not also like people who aren't afraid to pick up the phone and ask for help when they need it. I have heard stories of people who try to like struggle through things, and I'm like, no, no, you get to a point, just pick up the phone, call somebody who knows more than you do, and it's totally fine to get to that point.
So, Madeline, I have a question for you. When you're becoming a tech, we kind of discussed this when I interviewed you. Was there a moment when you were learning how to be a tech, you're like, oh man, I like this so much? Kind of like Elizabeth's anecdotal moment.
No. I will say what happened with me was I was like, whoa, this is so fascinating to me. How it was just like amazing to me how these things come together so perfectly. And I think that was the moment for me that I was like, this is amazing that this all just happens and it works. And how does this all just work? And people were able to figure out how to make this all happen and how to make these components just connect again in this way that is just to me like really beautiful. And I think the first time that I realized that, I was like, wow, espresso machines are, yes, they're these like engineered pieces of equipment, but they're extremely beautiful. I think they're pieces of art in a way. They so like kind of touching on this little bit of a like romanticized idea of the tech world, I think that Elizabeth was kind of touching on too. It's like I just thought it was so beautiful, and I was like, this is incredible that this happens. And like I said, I just feel like they're pieces of art at the same time. And I don't think that made me fall in love with tech work, but it made me just have this deep appreciation for all of the work that has gone into building out this technology. And I found out, I mean, I just like had this realization of how much I appreciate all of that.
Thanks, Madeline. Stephen, how about you? Was there ever a moment like Elizabeth's where you're like, oh my God, I love doing this, or is it more like Madeline's?
I kind of found that like as I was a barista, I was starting to like have this like insane yearn for knowledge. So I'm just like, okay, I need to find out like what exactly I'm doing when I'm tamping something, or what exactly that I'm doing that the grinder is doing. And then I would like run over to the roaster and be like, okay, exactly what is this rate of rise curve? What is this weird arcane chart that's on there? Like I need to know everything about it. Then that started translating to machines. Like, okay, wait a minute. This has 2 group heads, but 3 group heads, but the baristas are only using 1. Why is that? That's not right, kind of thing. And the more I just found out that I was kind of being pushed into that position of that like coffee expert, the more that like I kept talking about the machines and getting excited about it, that there's this giant like countered machine that is in reality like a broken hot water heater with a pump. And it's this massive thing, and it's making this tiny little drink. And it's almost like Rube Goldbergian kind of like weird mechanisms. And that whole process was beautiful. And being involved with that was that kind of aha moment for me, where like I can learn how to program them and fix them and go through, so that a barista's job is so easy that they can concentrate their time on customer service. And it's just magical. Like
That's very cool.
It's really
Thank you,
some
Steve.
of it.
David, how about you?
Yeah, I lost the question in Steven's description of it all. And,
The question is,
and, and
was there ever a moment when you were being attacked that you said, I really like doing this? Or was it more along the lines of Madeline and Stephen, where it's like the process is what's fascinating to you?
I mean, I think my first thing is like I love the aesthetic of all the stuff. You know, I love looking at the different roasters that are out there and the way the manufacturers have tried to come up with solutions. You know, I have a tiny little 200-gram sample roaster that has all the controls of or more controls than my production roaster, and that they've thought of all these things, you know, from drum speed to airflow, you know, in a tiny little package. Um, and that's just fascinating to me that I can, or to, a hot air sample roaster that is, you know, why is this blow dryer $4,000, right? And then trying to figure out like, well, all the things I can do with that and all that kind of technology that goes behind it. And you kind of have an insight into the way people think about design, not only from the aesthetic, but in terms of user experience, and I'm just fascinated by all of that, you know.
Cool, thanks, David. Elizabeth, we're going to finish with you before we move on to the next question. Despite your cool anecdotal story, what do you think?
I like another aha moment. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Well, the first time I correctly diagnosed a problem, it was with a brewer, but it was like it was at the cafe where I was working, and it was just sort of like boiling over, and it was just too hot. So I was like, oh, I bet there's something that senses the temperature that's touching the water, and we have a lot of calcium in our water, so it's probably just covered in calcium, and that's why it thinks it's not hot enough. And then I was correct, and I was like, I want to do this forever, you know.
Satisfaction of finding a problem is really addictive. It is.
It really is.
That's actually funny. That's what drove me to it, because I come from the barista management background. I was like, oh, this is so cool. I was a science major, so it was like it definitely was one of the motivating factors to see your empirical analysis come to fruition.
Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is biggest challenges you face daily in what you do. So we're going to start with David Myers.
Well, I think from I mean, for me, my biggest challenge right now is I'm working remotely for a company that I own in Michigan and also in Chicago. So, you know, I deal with like a lot of phone calls. Like a barista, my lead barista called in with a tech problem about a machine that we just got and why is it not working, and trying to solve that over the phone. And I think that, you know, on a daily basis, you know, roasters for the most part work really well day after day after day after day. And when something comes up that you don't expect, like a breaker trips, you know, it's not easy to, there's not a guide often to trace that back. Like if we know, like we have a low flow in one of our group heads on an espresso machine, we know like maybe we have a water, you know, we know how to trace those back pretty quickly. But on large roasting equipment, you know, often that challenge requires calling the manufacturer or calling our primary tech person, you know, who knows our machine inside and out, who's in Vancouver and time zones. And, you know, I think roasting for tech is a little different just because there aren't a lot of roaster techs that work as independent roaster techs that are like, you know, an hour away, that can come help you work on something. So, you know, when something goes wrong on a piece of roasting equipment, you know, it shuts you down. And that's a real challenge to get back in operation sometimes.
Stephen, how about you?
I would say being approachable. In my experience, the staff generally know their machines better than we do as techs. They are with it every single day. They are able to see the unique behaviors. And while we may be experts at different manufacturers and different problems, that subjective experience is so valuable. And coming at it from a troubleshooting standpoint, being able to relate to what's going on with their machine, where you have this complex knowledge of the machines themselves, but also sometimes in conflict with what the customer has, I always kind of think of it like fixing your grandma's internet. If your grandma happens to be somebody who's very tech savvy, you can say, oh, your Wi-Fi dropped the IP address, let's get you a new one. But if it's a very, someone who's not tech savvy, you're just like, I'm going to fix your Google Blinky box. There you go. So keeping that in mind and not kind of tech-splaining somebody, and also giving them enough knowledge to empower themselves to help fix their own problems, so that you are only there for the big emergencies. I know I kind of have that struggle sometimes too. Just making sure that everybody has that knowledge to further themselves, and not ever like make someone feel dumb for the experience that they have of their machine not working.
Thank you, Stephen. Madeline, how about you?
Me? Maybe it's just the run of bad luck that I've had recently, but I would love it if nothing unexpected happened half of the time, because pretty much every day I have to learn something the hard way, and it's fun, but it's not very efficient. I feel like I waste a lot of time sometimes learning new things, and it's a lot of fun to learn that way, but it's I wish that I had some jobs that went smoothly lately. I mean, usually I do, but lately I've had a lot of unexpected problems.
I can relate. Madeline, how about you?
I would say from like the customer experience, I don't know if this is common, but I always ask people, all right, you have a preventive maintenance scheduled on this date. Other than the standard PM stuff, anything I should know that's going on with your machine? I would say 9 times out of 10, the answer is like, no, everything's fine. And then I get there and it's actually a whole different story. Like, oh, actually, it's been doing this thing. And oh, can you look at our grinder over here too? Because the grinder started doing that. I'm like, guys, I allotted a certain amount of time. You told me nothing else is wrong. And now I can't address all of these things because now I have to get to like my next appointment after this. And like all of just that's like on that end, I think sometimes the communication, people think like, oh, I don't need to tell them that. Or maybe they think it's like a quick fix sometimes, and don't really have that understanding of, well, now I need to make sure I have different parts or tools with me that aren't just like in my standard PM bags. And that's something that I need to like figure out how to like, I guess, more clearly communicate other than asking anything else I should know about your machine or equipment. But in general here, one of the biggest challenges, I would say 2 things. One is water quality and people not taking it seriously. I think people in general think that like Hawaii has really great water, which is not true. And 2 is, David kind of alluded to this in the roaster tech realm, but in any sort of coffee tech, anything on the island where I live, there are 2 of us. And one person, the other person does not primarily work in the coffee industry. They just happen to have some training in doing coffee technician work. And so it's basically me, which means I get calls from towns that are 2 hours away, and I have to like sometimes tell people, I'm sorry, I don't have time until a month out to go visit you because my calendar is full. So something that I always tell anybody in any sort of like tech conversation, if anybody who lives in Hawaii wants to learn how to be a coffee technician, I am all for it. I can totally use some help. And if anybody wants to do tech work in Hawaii, I'm also all for it. I could use some help.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been doing this for a long time. It's funny that the most glorious place in the world has the biggest problem finding techs. Like we can't find techs there. So I think
Oh yeah,
everybody
Sorry. I mean, I even got a text from somebody yesterday asking, do you know any techs on Oahu? And I was like, I know one, you know? So, yeah.
Okay, we're going to start with Elizabeth. What advice would you give someone who wants to move into the coffee technician role?
I would say make sure you're going somewhere where you have some support. Like I would have given up so long ago if I didn't have my coworkers who have been here a lot longer than me, and like stock and all that. Like my coworkers are just so supportive. Every time I ask them for advice after I finish the job, they tell me I did a good job. And it's just nice to know that I can make a mistake and somebody can back me up and help me fix it. I think that's the most important thing.
That's cool.
For me.
David, how about you? David, you're up.
Yeah, no. I was just trying to think like how to be a roaster technician. I think it's like finding a job in a roastery that does all their own internal service work and trying to learn from the people who are there about what it means to work on roasters and probably on one specific, and then maybe moving around the industry a little bit and grow in that. And then there are very few techs around the country in this specific field. And then like my friend in Vancouver is dying for somebody to come apprentice with him and learn about all the intricacies of everything that he does. And there's a few people around the country that I'm sure would love to have somebody come learn that role with them, and seeking those people out and asking a lot of questions. Asking a lot of questions is always the first start. What does it mean to be a technician for a roaster? It's a big job. It's not usually a 1 hour or a 2 hour service call. Often it's multiple days and travel across states. So it's pretty specialized, and I think it's pretty rewarding and wide open as well. So.
Thanks, David. Madeline, how about you?
I totally agree with what Elizabeth said. And based off of my lived experience, being the total opposite, where again, like I said, there's nobody else out here. So I am still doing a lot of learning on the go, a lot of just like trying to figure it out a lot. And as I said earlier, when I don't know what the next step is, I just pick up the phone and call. And I'll say that sometimes it is difficult because being in Hawaii, time differences, sometimes you can't catch the service lines of these companies in time. So I also have the direct lines to a couple other very amazing technicians on the mainland who have helped me out several times. And so I feel like having a network, while my network is not physically close by, it has been super helpful to at least have contacts who I know I can rely on, even if it is 7 o'clock at night their time, but it's 4 p.m. my time, and so it's just having that network of people is super helpful.
Thanks. Stephen, how about you?
Also kind of compounding on what Elizabeth was saying, it's okay not to know something. It's okay to Google something. It's okay to, ask questions in the Coffee Tech Slack and try to get more expert opinions. It's also okay to make mistakes, and that is the most valuable way to learn. When you accidentally make a mistake and you make a situation worse, you will never do that again. And that's important to know your capabilities as a tech and then how that improved over time. What's most important for us as technicians is to be able to own our mistakes and say, hey, I didn't know this. I stepped on a landmine, it blew up, but I'm going to be here and make sure that it's right 100%. And after that happens, you are, you leveled up basically. And to kind of keep that mindset of growth and never be too hard on yourself for not knowing or not doing something right.
Thank you. That was, you guys, really good answer. Really good answers. Okay, panel, light up. Time for the grilling.
Hyland. We're gonna do any grilling. I mean, what an amazing.
Really amazing
Um,
question. Really amazing answers, you guys.
I want
gotta
to
say.
be all of your best friends. Like this
Yeah.
is amazing. I don't know where you've been all my life. I've been for 27 years and we haven't crossed paths. It's too bad. So at least we know each other now. And in the chat, Madeline, do you know John Constantino?
I don't know.
Found you another tech in Hawaii. So thanks to the Coffee Tech Guild, maybe we can connect y'all after the show.
Yeah, great.
So one more connection. Wow, there's just so much in everything we just talked about. I don't even know where to start, but I think since to just kind of work backwards, Stephen, it's okay to not know was a really hard lesson to learn as an entry-level technician. Because when you walk into a place and you got to put the cape on and be the expert, right? They called you and they're going to give you money, and it was really hard and humbling to get there for me anyway. And I think that's probably a common denominator across technicians, because you want to fix their problems. You don't want to make it worse, and sometimes you do. And you know what? That's okay. And once I learned that I could admit when I was wrong and that I don't know all the answers, my life got a lot easier. I was really fighting like myself more than anybody else in that space. So I love the fact that you brought that up, because I think maybe some people come to that a little bit easier than others, but it was like, it changed my life. The stress levels I had when I was trying to carry that burden were so much higher than when I let it go.
So I have a question for the guests, and let's start with David. What do you do when you hit that point that Caleb's talking about, where you're just like, you don't know the answer?
Well, I mean, for me on our roaster, I'm pretty fortunate that our manufacturer has really good tech resources. I have my roaster is serial number 3 in this manufacturing, and has been upgraded along the way. And so, I have a really good support hotline for tech help on my specific roaster. And usually we can get an answer in the same day. When it comes to espresso machine help, we're pretty adept at that, but there are times that we just don't know. And again, I've just developed a really great network of people that probably know something that I'm missing. And that's my go-to, and I like to be available for them too. It's a two-way street, and you got to just be aware that when you're using up people's resources, that you need to be available for them to not be able to answer their questions too. So,
Elizabeth, how about you?
What do I do when I get to a point where I've ruined everything?
I think
I call my coworkers, and they'll be either like, oh, I've never heard of that before, but like we'll figure it out, or they're like, oh, I experienced this 10 years ago and this is what I did. And that's it. I just call them.
Make the call.
And they'll help me figure out how to fix it. Yeah.
Steven, how about you?
Make sure I have an ample supply of towels just in case.
Yeah, that too.
And then to make sure I have a good network, either with the Coffee Technicians Guild. I have a long call history with Keegan of like, hey, I can't figure this out. What is your experience with this? It's been amazing to help for those weird situations. Both intercompany, making sure that I know how to Google things effectively. both with quotation marks and know how to get to obscure manuals and mostly that. Just
Thank
finding
you.
good support.
Yeah. Madeline, how about you?
Making calls, I will say Mike Sable has saved me several times.
I like how everybody shakes their head.
Everybody's stuck to Mike at some point.
Yeah,
Right?
everyone in the industry was called Mike for something.
Yeah, he's like one of my favorite human beings. And then, honestly, Slack channel is incredible. It's really awesome. I've been able to have some help with troubleshooting in after hours situations because there are people in all sorts of time zones there. And so, those, if it's not the Slack channel, it's Mike.
Okay, panelist questions.
I've got one. What do y'all do when your customer has tried your every last nerve because they called you for something that was broken and you then showed up and it was clearly they needed to clear out their drain hose, they didn't clean the steam wand, it was like and you've had a long day and you just drove 2 hours. How do you turn that situation around to use your hour effectively? Because they're paying for an hour, period, full stop. And what do you do there?
I think it's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I would say so many of my calls are, you guys just need to clean this. Like that's what, like so much of my work in the field ends up being is showing people how to clean things, honestly. And what I do is I say like, okay, who can I show how to do this right now? If it's not the owner who's there or a manager who's there, like what barista can I show how to do this? And I'll do it with them. I'll talk them through it and be like, this should be happening however often. Whatever the thing is, like this is the frequency in which this should be happening. And I use my time to just, teach someone how to do that or show them why they need to do that.
Educational, sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
David?
exactly what Madeline
Or
said
Stephen?
too.
Yeah, okay.
That I kind of enjoy those calls because that is the way you can partner with the customer and show that we're here and we're in this together. Nobody wants this machine to be fixed more than I do. And you experience this every day. So therefore, us in this together, we can clean it together. We can, if it comes to blowing out a drain hose, like showing them the effort that it takes to clear that problem, I think goes a long way in them realizing, oh, this is on my end and I'm wasting however much an hour to have somebody do that. And as long as it's not done in a way of like, hey, you screwed up, that can be very valuable and really turn into a self-education moment and become a self-reliant moment.
Elizabeth, any experience there?
Yeah, it's so easy to clean the machine that I just try to get people excited about cleaning it. I'm like, did you know you can just unfold a paper clip and stick it up the steam wand tip? Like it's so easy, you know? I just take that moment to educate people and try to get them excited about having a functional machine that they know a little bit more about.
Mm-hmm. How about you, David?
Well, I mean, I think it's a learned exercise in patience, and I've had those calls because we have, because I'm a wholesale roaster, we have calls with clogged drains, we have clogged grinders. I have customers calling because their brand new roaster that I trained them on in Chicago screen doesn't light up, or maybe it was they accidentally hit the safety switch and they haven't read the manual yet. And I always know that it's a opportunity for a teachable moment, but it's also they just want their stuff to work. you know, and they are busy and they're, you know, their machine or whatever they're trying to do is down. And so it's like, you know, just there to help them out and get things back in order and get moving again. And it's frustrating. And, but again, it's just, you know, if it's not a teachable moment, it's an opportunity to just give somebody good service and to, you know, get them back operational and feel good about their day again. And hopefully that interaction goes well.
Yeah.
I also want to add that for the folks who do a really good job of cleaning and keeping everything just like up to spec, I reinforce that with them every single time I visit them. I'm like, you guys are doing an awesome job. Thank you so much. Like, tell your team that you're making my life so much easier every time I come visit you because I know exactly what I'm stepping into. There are no surprises. And it's really actually like nice to work on this machine because you keep it so well maintained. And thank you. You know, so I like to reinforce that with the folks who also are on top of those things so that they continue. They're like, oh, you know, I just see that they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, of course. Why, like, I'm glad that you noticed that, or like, that's so good to hear that we're doing that right, you know, because I think a lot of folks aren't sure if they are doing things the way that they should be. And every time I tell somebody like, oh, this is amazing, thank you so much for making my life easier, they're like, wow, good to hear that. Thank you for letting me know. I'm like, yeah, totally.
I totally get it. Yeah.
We have time for one more question. Sorry, Maria, go for it.
No, I was just saying, just yesterday I was in the field with a C-store chain that somehow via telephone, they were using 3 paper filters in their coffee because somebody had a broken filter one day. And so via telephone, there was many stores that were doing that. And like, ooh, maybe the coffee was a little thin. And so people want to do the right thing. They want to do the right thing. And so most of the time it's just super simple, right?
Yeah. So I think it's really interesting.
We're first responders.
Yeah. Put the cape on. I think it's really interesting. And when I was listening to everyone's stories earlier, I heard a little bit about troubleshooting, and then it kind of ties into this space where you're in front of the customer and you're like, okay, how much of a teachable moment is this? How much can I troubleshoot with this person? How do you decide, how far to go? Like, I always would notice, like, if there was a barista with me that was looking over my shoulder and asking me a bunch of questions, I could really spend a lot of time, and it was fun for me. I would get to share my knowledge with this person and, build them up a little bit because I've been doing this a long time. So I really enjoyed those teachable moments, but it was really important. And I think, Stephen, you said tech-splaining, which I'd never heard that before, but I've seen a lot of techs do it, and it seems like they're doing it specifically to get someone to stop asking them questions. And I think that's the wrong way to go. So I like that you called that out earlier. So, I think, Hyland, if we can, and if you want a different question, that's fine, but like, how do you decide, when you should interact or, go that extra step, either in troubleshooting and or like in person, like teaching, and when do you decide that, what, this person isn't, they don't have time or care, and so you just got to go do your job and keep your blinders on and get the thing going.
It's a good question. I want to give Keegan an opportunity to ask a question also, but we have a few minutes here.
Keegan, so, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
Oh no, you're fine.
No, but we're going to go a few minutes over, you guys, because I want to give Keegan a shot. But I think Caleb asked a really good question. So let's start with Elizabeth to Caleb's question. Then Keegan, you will be next.
So I feel like that's like one of the best things about going from a barista to tech is because you can kind of tell like what somebody's workload is based on the environment. And like, for instance, if I'm working on a machine in a restaurant, I know that all these people have a million things to do that have nothing to do with coffee. So I don't really take a lot of time to explain to them unless they're asking a lot of questions. But yeah, like the people who are asking a lot of questions, of course, like I like trying to help people understand what's happening. But let's see. Yeah, basically I just sort of gauge the environment and see like what people's workload is and if they can handle some explanation of what's wrong with their machine. Yeah.
Yeah.
David, how about you?
Yeah, I have kind of thinking about two broad ends of the spectrum. For a while, I was listed as the tech for the grinder manufacturer that supplies Costco. And so I would go into these Costco's where somebody had reground dark roast coffee and created this paste on the burrs. And it's a really, and they don't care. They just want their grinder to fix. And the funny thing I've experienced with this is that they're always trying to decide whether they should just throw it away and replace it. And I've had that happen where it's like, well, the burrs were $4,500, so we just threw it away and ordered a new one. And this has happened multiple times. But when it comes to tech on our own roaster, it's like every moment that we are challenged with getting something going on our roaster, whether that's taking the day it takes to clean out our stack with a 40-foot brush, and sealing all that back up again to make our airflow. I mean, that's teaching my staff to be empowered to take care of these problems themselves. And it's challenging as I move to working remotely for my own company, that I have to make sure that they have everything that they need to solve problems without my having to be there or in person. And so every moment that I'm there hands-on, I'm there every few weeks is what more information do they need to be able to do their job successfully on an ongoing basis. And then it's not just like with the one person who's responsible for the roaster, but then who else needs to know that might be involved down the road that they can learn as well. So yeah.
Thanks, David. How about you, Madeline?
I would say I actually probably regularly ask one of the baristas for a little bit of assistance in some way. As I mentioned previously, I am a small human being. And so if I'm like, you're stronger than I am, can you do this? Because I'm struggling with this thing right now. And they're usually really into it. They're like, oh, sure, cool, I can do this thing. And they're like excited to just touch two wrenches against an espresso machine or something, and pop something open. And if they're, usually that will actually like prompt questions or conversation and things like that too. And I'm always happy to just like explain something to someone, like, well, why are you opening this part? Oh, well, because this is connected to this, and I would need to check if this thing is working the way it should, or explaining different mechanics of the machine. And they're usually just like really into it. And my perspective is, if these folks are asking questions, and I'll start to like ask them questions too of what their experience is. And because, as I've made it clear, there are not enough technicians here, I'm always like, hey, if you ever want to go take a class, you should definitely take a class, and I'll encourage people, like, there are some awesome trainings out there. You should, if you ever want some recommendations for where to go, let me know, and we could use some more. So I'm always the people who are a little bit tech savvy or into mechanics and stuff. I feel like you pick up on that pretty quickly, and I encourage folks to seek out that education.
Thanks, Madeline. Let's finish up with
Madeline. I think there's two there. You really need to do this more by necessity, because there's not enough, right? So you're kind of forcing, you're having to, what I hear is you really have to engage people. You have to try a little bit harder to bring them in, because there's not enough for you to spread around. You need to help people solve their problems. So you're kind of probably in that space where you've got to find a way to get in there and work with them over the phone and help them solve their problems a little bit more than someone that can just run, has more resources to run more calls in a day.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, just few weeks ago, I got a call from a cafe, an issue with their grinder. I've done work on their equipment in the past, and I was like, I'm leaving to get on a plane in 20 minutes. So this is what you should try really quickly.
Yeah.
Let me know if it works out, And it was somebody who has been with me in that cafe, seen me do a bunch of stuff, not just on their grinder, but on their espresso machine, and knew exactly what I was talking about because I had shown them things in the past of like, this is how your grinder works. This is what this is doing. And so when I was able to just say, try these two things and let me know what happens, I mean, they knew exactly what to do, and they were comfortable with doing that. And it worked, and they were totally fine, no problems after that. And so, yeah, I think a lot of my time in the field, I'm showing people what I'm doing because I also feel like that makes my life a lot easier. It makes my life easier in the future because people feel like, oh wait, she told me this thing. I remember how she fixed this one thing, and they feel more empowered to do that stuff themselves. And then if they don't, if they can't figure it out, then yeah, okay, I'll find time to go see you and see what's going on.
Stefan, let's hear from you, and then let's go on to Keegan's question.
I would say never just make assumptions based on what you think a customer's knowledge is, and just asking simple questions of like, hey, have you ever seen inside your machine? It's really cool. And then they start like poking, like, hey, what's that? What's that? And you can kind of get into, well, that's a PID. You know what that stands for? It's proportional integral derivative. Hey, how are you at calculus? Kind of those kind of like compounding questions that lead to others that can kind of get that like conversation going and really like get them interested and excited.
And Keegan, on to you, my man.
Yeah, let's end with what should be a relatively quick one here since we're over. I'm interested to hear, we all love being techs and turning wrenches and doing all of that, but what do you all miss about being a roaster or barista? Like what aspects of the job do you not get to do anymore that you really enjoyed previously?
I'll go first.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
I really miss having a specific list of tasks that are always the same that I do every day and never get surprised by anything and just can go on autopilot for most of the day. I miss that. But yeah, I like this is more rewarding, I think. I do miss the structure. I'm not great at like creating my own structure. I'm still learning how to do that.
Stefan, how about you?
I would say with roasting in particular, being able to witness a customer consuming something that I made and enjoying that, I think that's kind of delayed kind of gratification with espresso machines. So being able to have that kind of like, I roasted this, I am able to do the roast profile for it. The things that you're enjoying is what I intended. And that was really magical.
Thank you. Madeline?
I don't know, to be totally honest. I sometimes I miss making coffee, but as a barista, but I also get to make coffee in other aspects of my job because, as I said, I wear many different hats. So I do a lot of barista trainings at cafes. So I show a lot of people still in my regular work how to make coffee, and I make coffees alongside them. We do like barista certification programs, the SCA program in our space. We do brewing and manual brewing workshops and SCA certification. So I feel like I kind of miss it, but I still get to touch so many parts of the industry, which is why, I said earlier, like my job is so dynamic. I am not just a technician. I am not just an educator. I'm not just, a Q grader. I do all of these things throughout a week. And so yeah, like I said, the aspects I do miss, I still get to do those things every so often. And when I get to teach a barista class, I'm like, oh, that felt so nice to like make a couple of coffees, you know, pull some shots, taste some shots with these people and talk to them about this stuff. So I'm in a unique position where I still get to do the things that I miss.
Thank you. I think I'm missing David.
Yeah, I think as my company got bigger and bigger and we started doing just large batch roasting, and I'm trying to get back into it, is like doing small roasting and being, thinking small again and having that ability to play more. That's kind of been missing, especially during the pandemic when we haven't had people in to do, public classes and hands-on, brewing classes and just, seeing those small interactions. For right now, we're not doing any of that in person, and so I miss that, and my current plan and venture is to kind of recreate that experience where I'm living now, and it is small micro stuff in a different space than what I've been operating in. So I'm kind of looking forward to exploring getting back to kind of the simplicity of it all.
That's nice, David. Thank you. So we're going to wrap it up and do closing statements from everybody. Take 30 seconds, just say your last words, then we'll close up with me announcing next week's episode. Stephen, let's start with you. Anything to add before we wrap it up?
Everybody just keep doing what you're doing. I think the mindsets and the philosophies of everybody that's spoken is really refreshing. Being able to hear people that are like very excited about fixing things and having other people fix things.
Madeline, how about you?
Let's talk about water more. I think that just like we don't talk about when we kind of talk about water quality stuff in the coffee industry, but it seems like it wasn't something that was really evident to me until I really got into the tech stuff. And I think we need to start educating people on water quality earlier on because they think that it doesn't matter. And that honestly is it is at the heart of so many problems that people have with equipment.
Thanks for pointing that out, Madeline. Keegan, how about you?
Sorry, had a dog barking in the background for a second there. Yeah, really refreshing to hear everyone's unique perspectives, and I love the diverse backgrounds that everyone comes to this from. Yeah, just keep on rocking it out. And Madeline, I don't know, I'm sitting in snowy Indiana right now, so you might have a new tech in Hawaii soon.
Elizabeth, how about you?
I just think this has been really cool, and I'm very excited to be here.
Thank you. Caleb?
Yeah, I think we all want to find, a place where, introspectively looking for how do we make the world a better place. And so my sort of mantra and all that has been, if we can make, a cup of coffee better for that person, for those people, ultimately that's where we get to make a difference and change the world, one cup of coffee at a time, one machine at a time. And so I want to thank everybody for their passion and, what they do in this space. So this has been great. Again, I feel like I made some new friends today and look forward to hanging out with y'all soon in the future.
And saving the best for last, Maria.
Oh, you're funny. No, I want to just echo what Caleb's got to say is I'm so happy to now have several new friends in the coffee industry, and thank you all for taking your time today. And sounds like some passionate educators to plug into baristas. And in my volunteering for the Technician Guild, I am very passionate about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And so I'd like to continue to see new faces come into our space. And in the next 10 years, if I can lead and inspire 3 more techs to come in and just crush, it's all about it. So I'm coming after you for some lift and learns. We're doing some community-based events in 2022 and 2023 and beyond. So look for some follow-ups from me and from other folks in the guild. So, but thank you for your time today.
From the bottom of the production team's heart, we appreciate your participation. It has been an excellent, excellent episode. I've learned a lot, and it was really great getting to know you and know you as techs. Next week's episode is going to be on the AST program, and we're going to be adding some training tips and talking about building a training program. I hope you guys will join us. I hope our viewers will join us. And with that, we're out. Everybody have a great weekend. And thank you very, very much for participating. It was nice meeting you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye,
everybody.
y'all.